Hi, everyone. This is one more episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity, where I talk with my global network and we share stories and talk about topics that are of interest to everyone. My first guest today is Dr. Emmanuel Ogu, all the way from the great continent of Africa. So, Dr. Ogu, please introduce yourself and let's go into
Hello,
your
good
topic.
evening. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and good evening, Dr. Masib. Thank you for having me. I am Emmanuel Ogu, you have introduced. I trained as a computer scientist, an IT professional, and for the last 7 years, I've been working in industry and academia as well, as a lecturer in one of the leading private universities in Nigeria, and also as an industry consultant. In the cybersecurity space, particularly working on issues of threat intelligence, digital governance, cybersecurity governance, as well as areas of technology development in Nigeria and in neighboring countries around Nigeria as well. Um, it is my pleasure to be here today, and I'm glad to be on the program.
This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you for making time to visit us all the way from Nigeria. So, what questions and topics are of interest to you? I know that you and I have kind of chatted informally on LinkedIn, but hopefully we can share some interesting insights for our audience.
Yeah, basically, I have two questions or two conversations to
Uh-huh.
talk about today. The first one is talking about postdoctoral opportunities.
Mhm.
In 2018, I completed my PhD program, and since then, I've been actively looking for postdoctoral interests in the areas of cybersecurity. Um, in Nigeria, these are limited because the cybersecurity space in Nigeria is still evolving. It's still at a very young stage.
Mhm.
And there have been challenges trying to create contacts out of Nigeria that are necessary to bring about some of these collaborations that make postdoctoral fellowships possible. Do you have any recommendations? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any insights that could help to provide a better way forward in this regard?
Absolutely. No, I think that's an excellent question because doctoral degree holders in the field are very short supply right now. And in many programs, they're hungry for these kinds of faculty members. My recommendation would be to apply for a faculty position, could be a research and teaching kind of a tenure track type of position. Those positions
Okay.
are available all the time. I don't know if you are looking at the websites, but one website that is a good one is Chronicle. Chronicle has a whole jobs site, and that's like the biggest one in the United States. Then higher ed jobs, that's another one. So those are places where you would look for that. So tenure faculty is one. The other is you're looking for postdoctoral research. Right now, a lot of people, a lot of private companies are also doing research because they need answers and they are literally hungry. Some of them are actually stealing faculty members from universities with higher pay because most university pay is pretty low compared to
Yeah.
the rest of the industry. But right now, knowledge and new information from knowledge has become so valuable that a lot of private companies are hungry for that kind of a talent. So I would recommend that you look for that also. Remember, one of the other things, one of the jobs that has come up is the chief data scientist. You will see many organizations are looking for data scientists. And that's what this would, that's what would be a good fit. So that would allow you to do the research if you're not interested in the teaching aspects of it. Now, if you're still interested in the teaching aspects of it, you could probably still teach as an adjunct while doing research and getting paid a decent salary,
Yeah. It's a win-win.
supplemental income.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. They've been very useful, and I've noted all the points down. Secondly, I would also like to talk about industry certifications.
Okay.
Yeah, I chose to train as a core IT professional with a first degree in computer science, a second degree in computer science, and also a PhD in computer science with a research focus on cybersecurity. My concern was actually the fact that the certification industry does not seem to be advancing the career interests um, like they should. It seems to be a more profit-driven industry, particularly the idea, what I didn't find welcoming was the idea that certifications could expire when actually knowledge does not expire. So there was that concern, and I kept looking for answers in industry, consulting with senior colleagues in the industry. And one thing I have come to understand from many positions in this regard is the way and manner in which the certification industry doesn't benefit the discipline on the broad scale. What recommendations? What's your position on this?
Well, I think you have analyzed it very nicely yourself. I think that you have highlighted exactly the issue, because it is definitely, there's a lot of money to be made in just the training of certification. Whether the person after the certification gets a job or not, nobody seems to care. And as a matter of fact, it has been proven that just getting a certification does not get you a job of any kind.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely correct that the certification might test knowledge, which in many cases, the way the testing is done does not even test the knowledge, because it mostly tests how you perform under a lot of stress and maybe lack of sleep, because many of the people taking the test will probably not sleep the night before. They're nervous. So now they're taking the test. Is that really a determination or an evaluation of their true skill or potential? Why don't you give them an actual project to solve? So I'm not a big believer in these tests. I know that's against the grain, but that's what the truth is. And I believe that you have already arrived at that same conclusion yourself.
Okay, thank you. And finally, if I may add, there is the challenge of mentorship in the industry, particularly right here in Nigeria. The concern that, or the reality rather, that senior colleagues are either migrating overseas on a broad scale or are too busy dealing with industry issues at the higher levels of government, that mentorship is actually not a consideration for many at this level. Fostering mentorship collaborations overseas also is not always very easy, particularly due to the fact that some of these mentors are also faculty members who have to coordinate research teams, who have to monitor and administer grants, and so on and so forth. How do you think this can be navigated in a more progressive manner?
Excellent question. So again, we can complain a lot about all these things that are going on, but we can also be part of the solution. So if you think about what I'm doing, I know this to be a problem. I know that there is a lack of investment in leadership development. There's a lack of investment where senior people are not really investing in the next generation coming up. So what have I done? I've basically become part of the solution. Instead of complaining about it, which I can do nothing about, is I have expanded my own activities in this mentorship, and I have a deal with every one of my mentees. It's a very simple deal that if I mentor somebody, that person has to agree to mentor 10 people throughout their lifetime. Okay. I don't care when they do it, but what that does is that it creates that bond and then the ripple effect of that mentorship. So again, it is solving the problem. You see, every little bit that we do is actually going towards solving the problem. And you will see, so this actually happened this morning. somebody just posted a thank you note celebrating the 5th anniversary of him buying my signed book at a conference and then establishing a relationship of mentorship that 5 years ago. And after he read my book, he would call me every now and then, ask a question or two, just like some of you are asking these questions. And I would guide him and I would help him. My message was very simple, that everybody has something to offer. Yeah. And we're often very afraid to let that excellence out because we're so much trying to conform to societal expectations that we suppress, and then we try to become the average person. But instead, what we can do is lift everybody up, and instead of pushing ourselves down to the lower average, why don't we mentor and bring up everybody else to where we are not afraid to express ourselves or do things? That I would encourage, particularly intellectuals like yourself, who are deep thinkers, who have that doctoral degree, who are really not only just a scholar, but you're also a practitioner, scholar, you're thinking about all this. Those kinds of mentors are tremendously valuable to the next generation, the younger people. It doesn't even have to be next generation. You could be mentoring peers and mentoring each other, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be the way. And then you have that pact that if I mentor you, you must mentor 10 others. Think about how that will create change.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the answers and the inspiration. I think that will be all for now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I am then going to bring in Dr. Dan Ford. So Dr. Ugo, was very nice talking with you. Dr. Dan Ford is a Doctor of Science in Cybersecurity, graduated from the same university that I graduated from. So please introduce yourself, Dr. Dan Ford.
First, thank you very much for having me on with Conversation with Dr. Cybersecurity. I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, your audience, and meeting this new network of people. And I certainly hope we will all be able to have conversations in the future, because they're very important no matter what. As Mansur mentioned, Mansur and I were classmates at CAP. We both achieved our doctoral science degrees in cybersecurity. I think technically we were in the information assurance before they moved over. Don't remember. It was a while ago. I have always been a big proponent in cybersecurity. As a matter of fact, so much so that I moved over to the Chief Information Officer role, primarily because, as a CISO, you really take on all the responsibility and the risk, but you don't really have a whole lot of power, I feel, to influence. But as CIO, I can make sure security has a seat at the table, and we can have the collaboration to be able to talk about security. Then I took it further and wanted to figure out, how can I apply my knowledge and technology and cybersecurity and start speaking the language of business? Because most business people, they don't know technology. They know risk, but risk to them, risk is profit loss. Risk to them is, how do I manage the downside? And cybersecurity is really about managing the technology risk, which is a little bit different. I mean, we see with all these breaches, one breach happens, that's when cybersecurity occurs. And if they're a publicly traded company, I mean, their stock within a couple of quarters is already traded equal to higher than what it was before. So I graduated with my MBA from University of Michigan, and this past May, I think it was May 1st was the technical graduation date. And now, and just doing so, that it's the business of technology and cybersecurity has a seat at the table from where I am the CIO at a fairly large credit union, Jovia Financial Credit Union. It's we're on Long Island, so it's one of the wealthier areas in the country. The aspect of being at a credit union, because it's about serving the community, and I get to help protect the assets of all of my members, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So that's a little bit about me. And you know, Mansur, one of the questions that I have for you, because I mean, you're big on leadership. Cybersecurity and technology is an inherently negative support model. People only come to us when there's a problem. Whenever they see us on the security side, it's, oh my gosh, it's the security people. What advice do you have for people that are aspiring to be leaders, or they're in leadership, and when every time we're around, it tends to be a negative interaction?
Excellent question. Excellent question, Dan. So you have already recognized this through your own journey, because you noticed that you started from the CISO role. You have now gone to the CIO role, recognizing that the modern CIO really has everything in that. That includes the protection, but actually protection by itself never sells, right? The business doesn't care about that. The business cares about business enablement, profit, creation of value, and information, and everything that we do is really the creation of value. And that's what you are doing now in that role. My recommendation is, you just got your MBA degree, so my hat's off to you for that. Because again, you're now becoming part of the solution, which is really the modern world doesn't need financial CEOs anymore. We really don't have any need for a CFO anymore. You could be the modern CEO, CFO, whatever you call it, the chief administrative officer. I don't care what the title is, but the basic thing is running a company is no longer about finance. It's all about the digital strategy. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. Why do we have CEOs that are now prepared in the 1970s curriculum? Because even in your MBA curriculum, you probably didn't have anything about IT strategy, cybersecurity strategy. You got that from your doctoral program and all the other things that you did. But you see, because you got that MBA now, you have now become best qualified to be the modern CEO. That's what I would encourage you to do.
Well, you're absolutely right. That's the exact reason why I went to an MBA with one of the, you know, it's a top MBA program. They for people in the C-suite and the Fortune 500 than the others. I saw the trend, or at least I believe there was going to be a trend, and it's happened, where the CIO gets promoted to CEO, and it's happened several times. Probably the most prolific in terms of the high level was DSW Shoes. They promoted their CIO a couple of years ago. You know, high transaction based, a lot of you know, the e-platform in terms of buying everything online, you know, PCI. So the people that know and can marry technology to business are going to be, I believe, the next trend.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why I chose to do it. I mean, I feel
I love confident. You are being part of the solution and being that kind of a leader that the modern world needs. That's basically what I wrote in my book also, the Cybersecurity Leadership book.
Absolutely.
Basically saying that I want the modern world CEOs to be this. And it's all about innovation also. And it's all about people. This whole business that the finance industry has created, which culture of layoffs and everything, this is basically ruining American and global innovation. It's crazy.
It absolutely is, which kind of leads to the next question, you know, us to be able to discuss. You know, when we take a look at our budgets, you know, but you know, we're not a federal government agency, you know, so there's unlimited funds. So when you get your pot of money, which hopefully, and there's different calculations of how it should be, but you know, some want to take, you know, percentage of expense, it's a percentage of revenue, it's a percentage of, you know, IT dollars, whatever it may be. If you have to pick the first thing, you know, a lot of startup companies, I think even more so there's going to be more startup companies due to COVID-19 and the amount of people that are unemployed. They're going to turn and create companies. I think there's going to be a lot more dollars for that. And so as doing so, they're going to have to spend some money in cybersecurity. Which area of focus you focus on first and why?
In terms of the role as a strategist?
Cybersecurity, where cybersecurity technology would you advise a startup company to invest in?
Well, remember my philosophy and definition of cybersecurity is a little different from many people. I don't equate cybersecurity with just security alone. My thing is, first of all, focus on the mission. Then you do focus on the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information, and where integrity and availability are very, very critical, right? Because if your information does not have integrity or truth, then your decisions are going to be flawed. So it's not a question of where. You have to look at all of those things, but just like a business strategist, you cannot make the decision based upon in a vacuum, because you have to go, where am I? What company am I working for? Am I working for a nuclear power plant? And if so, what are their priorities? What are their business priorities? What do they have to do first? And then I have to have a multi-year plan. So I cannot right now just tell you that, oh, you should focus here first, because it is always tailored to the mission of the organization.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, that's one of the things that I tend to think about is when you start looking, it's first, understand your threat model, understand how you're trying to protect against.
But not just as a startup alone, but also the opportunities.
Well, absolutely. But as a startup company, am I really going to be concerned with the states that we have? Say only nation states can defend against nation states. As a small company, it's very unlikely with my resources I'm going to be able to protect any nation state. Which gets back to your mission. What is your mission? Are you trying to produce widgets for Ford Motor Company, or are you trying to produce something for manufacturing? Whichever. So I think it's a very
and my budget has always been that the IT department or the technology strategies or the CIO's departmental budget is always very small, operational. All the budget I have always done with the line of business. So therefore, it's never an IT budget. It's always a company budget. So in any of the organizations that I have been in, nuclear power plants, energy companies, you name it, it was always the line of organization business. And I was always a digital strategy partner. So that was where, and cybersecurity or security or protection was never a separate. It was, this is the way we need to be, because these are the uptime requirements, these are the integrity requirements, and these are the availability requirements that we have. And we had service level agreements with all the clients and everything. And we all said, this is what it's going to cost. And we all signed off on that, all the executives. So that is the way I did it for 30 plus years.
Yeah, which is great. I can't remember, there was one of the previous shows, one of your guests was talking about opportunities for people, cybersecurity investors. One of the things that I did with my credit union is, one, I want to have someone that understands cybersecurity. So I said, look, we're, as a credit union, you're a part of the community, and your board is made up of members, because credit unions, we refer to them as members because they play into that, and they're a part of the community. So I said, we've got all these universities that are on here. Let's go get one of the faculty chairs for cybersecurity that's in our community to be on our board, because this way they can validate the direction that we are going. So I don't know if you have other options for those smaller companies that have a board, but that's one of the paths that I've gone down, which is that let's get those that are researching.
I would actually encourage you to even get some of the fresh Masters of Science graduates on the boards, because to tell you honestly, many of them are far more qualified than many existing CIOs and CISOs in a variety of companies. So often they don't get a chance, but for startups, that's a perfect opportunity because these people have the right knowledge. So I have always argued, and hopefully you would agree with me, that the right knowledge beats the wrong experience any day, man. Why are we not giving these people who have earned solid degrees from solid university programs a chance in these advisory boards?
Absolutely true. Mansur, those are my questions for you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.
Oh, it was wonderful to see you, Dan. It was wonderful to see you. You look good. So thank you for coming on. And now
Don villain going on.
I will get there. I'm getting there. And I will bring in Courtney Cain. If you are in the audience, Courtney, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself and let's chat.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Hasib, thanks for having me. So as he said, my name is Courtney Cain. This year, I will be retiring from naval service. So I'll have served 21 and a half years when I retire in November. And I'm currently working on a master's degree in cybersecurity risk management at Georgetown University. The program at Georgetown is very new. My class is going to be the first class going through the entire program. So we're really excited about it. We're learning a lot of interesting things. And actually, last week for one of my papers, we were talking about the fourth industrial revolution. So when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, I know what he's talking about. So
that is cool.
So that's me in a nutshell. When I retire, I will be going into, going into industry with Booz Allen Hamilton as a cyber risk specialist. So I'm excited about that. You can
see that my buddy Dan has advisory board roles open to you.
Okay, and I'm actually from Long Island, so when he said he was at the bank on Long Island, I was like, hey, that's where I'm from.
Great, great. Congratulations on your impending retirement. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you for coming on. What do you want to talk about, Courtney?
So my first question for you is, why do you think continuing education is so important in the field of cybersecurity?
Excellent question. So you may or may not have seen my model of cybersecurity, which deals with perpetual innovation, right? This is a field where perpetual innovation is the key. And perpetual innovation requires continuous learning, continuous integration. And I'm a big believer in what is called micro innovation. Why micro? Because macro innovations, which generally mean there is absolutely no point of return. Those are such big, major upheavals that if you are wrong in making a macro innovation, basically your company is going to be dead.
Oh, okay.
So, right, because they're very risky. If they pan out, fantastic. You're gonna make it. But if they don't pan out, I'll give you a good example. Reorganization, a major reorganization. Let us say that your line of business completely overhauls everything. That overhaul could either be your death knell or be great for you. But you can't usually risk that. I'm not a big fan of that. Micro innovation, which is smaller scale innovation at every layer of the organization, maybe leading to the vision that you might have. You might have a different vision, but you have to go there incrementally without betting the whole company.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Sometimes macro innovation is necessary, but you have to be very careful about that. So this is the key reason. And our technology changes, processes changes. Even the simple thing, you will notice many people, even today, are equating information security with cybersecurity. Well, they're not the same thing. Information security was what we used to do in 1991. That field has moved dramatically from there to where we are today in cybersecurity. And that knowledge update has to be done. Everybody needs to do it. Unfortunately, I know too many people that haven't updated even today. I meet them all the time. They're constantly equating information security with cybersecurity, or they're talking as though cybersecurity and security is the same thing. Because see, security is a state. Cybersecurity is a process.
That makes sense. So what can cybersecurity professionals read, or where should they be looking to to make sure that their knowledge is up to date?
Well, so this is, again, depends on your niche.
Okay.
Obviously, you won't be able to keep up to date with everything. You have to figure out what is your passion and where do you want to specialize in. And hopefully, yes, you have to have the broader understanding of the field, that is for sure, but you also have to figure out what is my little space. My simple example is that my space is the leadership, strategy, information governance aspects of the field, the people aspects of the field. So broadly, I'm in the people side, but even more narrow, I'm on the leadership side of the people. You see? So you will have to figure out exactly what is the area that excites you. So think about cybersecurity as the word science. Well, how am I going to keep up with science? I can't really keep up with science. Similarly, I cannot really keep up with cybersecurity. But if you tell me to keep up with the leadership aspects of cybersecurity, I can. If you want me to keep up with the penetration aspects of cybersecurity, I can. So the operations center, I can. So again, it is limited. And even then, sometimes you get to even more narrower niches. Maybe it's medical devices. Maybe it's drones. Maybe it's satellite communication. So again, you have to narrow down. So in the medicine, science, these are very broad terms. But in medicine, are you an internal medicine? Are you a brain surgeon? What are you, right?
Right.
And that is the sophistication that our field needs. And people need to start thinking like that.
Okay, so what do you suggest that people do to kind of identify where their niche should be?
Start soul searching and asking yourself, what is the aspect that I really want to do? What is fun for me? What does not feel like work? Okay. This is the soul searching you're going to have to do. Some of it will come as you experiment with jobs or try different jobs, maybe try different, sometimes it's voluntary work also. See if there are places that will allow you to voluntarily do some things, and then you figure out what you really might enjoy. Even when you're reading things, what excites you most? You have to figure this one out. Sometimes it's going to be an accidental way of figuring it out. Maybe you'll run into, and that is why networking is also so important. Maybe you'll find somebody doing something that excites you so much that you say, hey, can I work with you on this? And all of a sudden, it opens up doors that you didn't even think about. Because see, this field is so new that you won't know until you try it. And that's the thing. Unfortunately, when you're going through education, that's a great time to experiment. But if you haven't had that opportunity, I would say get out and network and see who's doing what and see if you can collaborate with them.
Okay. That's really good advice. Okay, those are all the questions that I had. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed talking with you, Courtney.
Thank you.
So I am now going to bring in Dominic Vogel. So if you're there, unmute yourself and introduce yourself and let's chat.
Sorry, just getting reset up here. How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's still early afternoon where I am here in Vancouver, Canada, so I'm still chugging through along with my day here.
This is wonderful. So we're going from all over from Africa to Canada. This is amazing.
Truly global today.
Yes. So introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then
absolutely. Yes. So name's Dominic Vogel. As I mentioned there, I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. So surprisingly rare, beautiful summer day here, which is nice. I've been in the cybersecurity field my entire professional career, 15 years. The past 5 years have been focusing on growing my advisory company, which is called Cybersecurity, and we focus primarily on small and mid-sized organizations and providing what we refer to as cyber risk leadership services to these organizations. And these are companies as small as maybe a dozen employees, all the way up to maybe about 500 or 600 employees. So we swim exclusively with the, like I said, the small and mid-sized businesses and organizations, and we're having a ton of fun right now. Plus, I'm super active on LinkedIn. I love being able to connect with awesome people.
Great, great, great. So yeah, this is wonderful. I actually visited Vancouver. It is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen, so I can tell you that. So the fact that you're living there is just pretty amazing.
Yes, yes. No, it's funny. I whenever I get to meet new people, I've always said, "Oh, it's just amazing to grow up there." And you know what, it is. You know, and I can't actually afford to live in Vancouver. We live 30 minutes 30 minutes east of Vancouver. But I just tell people that we you know, for all intents and purposes, I have grown up in Vancouver. Just a little too pricey for a family of 4.
Yeah, great, great. No, I really enjoyed visiting. So go ahead. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I mean, one of the things I'd love to chat with you about is, and as I mentioned, you know, we deal with small and mid-sized organizations, and you know, many of them are often are the hardest hit right now during this COVID crisis. And what's been really interesting is that from a business dev perspective, we've never been busier. You know, we have so many organizations reaching out, wanting to learn more about cyber risk, cybersecurity, what they should be doing, how they could be making sure that their remote workforce is operating securely, which is really interesting. But you have this dichotomy of sorts in which they're just not willing to pay anything right now. You know, it's just they have these questions, but everyone's really skittish about spending money, or at least prioritizing spending money when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's been an interesting area where we've been struggling to grapple with, and curious to your thoughts there in terms of what would be sort of the best messaging which would help resonate with, again, these non-technical people in terms of why they should be prioritizing cybersecurity. It's a good sign that they're asking questions, but they're still pausing it right now.
Right. So I would recommend 2 things. Number 1 is don't even talk about cybersecurity. Nobody cares about cybersecurity. They care about running the business. So talk about business enablement. That's number 1. Yep. Number 2, payment. Yes, it is very hard. So this is a problem that is not just true of Vancouver or Canada. This is a global problem. Smaller companies, mid-sized companies really cannot afford the talent that they need. So in the United States, one of the efforts that was done is what is called an information sharing and analysis organizations. You have probably heard of the ISACs, information sharing and analysis, whatever the ISACs were, right? Those were big companies, lots and lots of money. So they were able to go and share intelligence, share information, and get the best talent which they already had. Anyway, the smaller businesses create cooperatives. So it's going to take leadership from perhaps people like you who could actually be in a position to help them. So if a single company cannot pay you, see if you can get 5 companies to collaborate together to pay you. You see? And you can effectively help all 5 of them. You can help 15 of them. You can help 20, 50. So your business can grow, but at the same time, I also recommend that as you grow this business, tell them that the way I would grow the business is also by sharing some of the intellectual capital. So in other words, I would develop your people, because at some point, if your business truly needs to scale and grow, you won't be able to hire enough people to keep them around that will know their business. So become mentors to their business people. You will earn so much goodwill, and you will basically be the solution to the national problem. You see, we need altruistic leaders like this to think differently. Because if you as a company, how are you going to serve all these people with deep knowledge of each company who may be totally different, right? But you say that no, me hiring somebody to serve you won't scale very well, but give me a slice of somebody in your organization whom I'm going to mentor and train to be that triage person, the support person, the cybersecurity champion in your company who's going to help you do the business enablement through us. So we're going to be like the second tier. But that mentoring model will give you lots of money, lower risk, greater customer satisfaction, and in many ways, you'll basically be building the grassroots level support for your business. Because you will you will have a person embedded in that company that supports you.
Yes. And that's really interesting. That's such an interesting point. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's super insightful. And I'd say my follow-up question to that is very much, I would say, it extends from that point there which you were mentioning about the sort of that internal champion of sorts in the organizations. And one of the solutions which some people have been, again, this I would say goes before COVID, so pre-COVID. Another sort of roadblock we would hit quite commonly is with, particularly with this sort of the smallest of the small organizations, so truly at the base of the pyramid. And they would say, well, yes, we care about cybersecurity. Yes, we're worried about cyber risk. We want to do something about it. But what can we get for like $200 a month or $300 a month? And one of the things which was suggested to me by a non-cybersecurity person was this concept of being able to deliver through an automated course. And the analogy he gave to me was a lot of these organizations may see it as almost like a DIY, do-it-yourself approach, in which if you were to buy a dishwasher, some people are willing to pay for the experts to put that in. Others will watch the video on YouTube, and they may or may not flood their main floor, but they want to have that option of trying it first. And I'm curious to your thoughts if you think that type of, I guess, approach could work in like I was saying, maybe in a cybersecurity setting with that internal person at one of these of the organizations, and they would be the one engaging with the automated content, and again being the DIY person when it comes to cybersecurity.
Again, my definition of cybersecurity is truly about business enablement. It is not about the protection or the security. So I don't even when I sold my services to any internal clients, I never talked about security or cybersecurity. I only talked about what are you trying to achieve? The nuclear power plant. We want to get off the watch list, and we want to be able to search our records and all that, right? So what is it that the CEOs of the companies want? So the same thing in your approach, it should be that, look, my strategy will be to look at your entire technology suite that you're doing and truly help you power your business through the technology. That is why my book is called Cybersecurity Leadership, Powering the Modern Organization. Because you see, that leadership that you're providing with a digital strategy is going to power their organization. They have so much money that they have left on the table, you wouldn't even believe it. You probably know this, but that's where the opportunity is. It's not in the protection or selling the risk or this hacker is coming. No. The opportunity is you are making $20 million annually. You do the right digital strategy, this is going to be $100 million worth of revenue annually. Give you an example. Very simple. Universities right now are grappling with this thing about, oh, how do we get the students on campus and all that? Whereas if they truly had a digital strategy, they could replace their entire university revenue stream with the digital strategy, and nobody would even have to worry whether students are coming on campus or not. We of course want students to come on campus, but if bullets are flying in the campus via COVID or whatever, do you really want students coming on campus and worrying about that? Why don't you change the business model, right?
Yeah.
Digital strategy today can bring so much money for any organization, it's not even funny. And that's what I would recommend you do. And those are the kinds of leaders that we need.
Yes. Yeah, no, and that's what I find so amazing about you. You're a true luminary. I love how you're just you said it earlier, going against the grain of what so many other cybersecurity professionals say. There's so much of it, I'd say, a status quo problem in the industry. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your feedback and insights so
they
much.
don't
Very,
know.
very humble.
Many of the people that are mouthing off cybersecurity do not know cybersecurity. If you ask them to define what is cybersecurity, they're not going to be able to define it.
So very true.
And then they're offering you solutions. I'm like, if you cannot even define the problem, how are you offering and selling solutions? Some of them cannot even spell it.
that always amazed me when I was.
It's the most amazing thing in our industry. And so I didn't want to be just arguing and of all that. I said, I'm going to be part of the solution. I'm going to empower and help as many people with the knowledge and these discussions. And hopefully all the leaders that I empower will then take that empowerment and the knowledge and then implement it to do real solutions. And this is already happening. So this is why I volunteer so much of my time doing this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm truly humble and truly thankful for your time, my friend. Those were the two burning questions for me, and I appreciate so much that insight.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you for coming on the show. So I am going to stop recording, and then we're going to go into our networking time. Thank you very much, everybody.